Tractate Sanhedrin, page 83, 10 lines from the top of the page. We explained yesterday and the past several days the concept of mitah bidei shamayim, which is when the Torah instructed us for a certain violation to have a potential to receive a severe punishment, which is a capital punishment. There are certain manners of which the court cannot impose this type of punishment, and in our simple language we leave it for the hand of heaven. So here is a list. Obviously it's not the entire list according to Moshe P, but it's a list that gives us a general structure for those who receive kind of heavenly tribunal punishment, but not by us. Gufa ve'elu mitah ha'ochel et hatevel. So the first one is one who partake an untied produce. In general, we have a subject of hafrashat trumot u'masrot. In Eretz Israel, we have the obligation to separate a tithe, and there is a very clear guideline of what we have to. But those produce that made in Eretz Israel, and they need to partake part of them and give it, as long as it's not in that position, meaning you have the produce, but the produce cannot be eaten because the tithe was not taking part of that. So just in general, we explained it many times, but is the Truma Gdola, is the first portion of tithe which is giving to the Kohen, and then according to the Torah is no measure, and then it goes part of that to Levi and more. So basically all that concept applies for someone who is eating from those produce that's supposed to take part for the tithe, and since it was not tightened, he partake from those produce. There's a disputation how far you go with this. There is a Tosfot, two explanations, especially in the second one. You have the Ran, we have the Rambam and the Ravid and more. Some say that it's applies solely for the Truma Gdola, Rishon, Maser Rishon, Trumat Maser, but not Maser Sheni or Ani. We learn it in Tosfot Yevamot 86. But anyway, according to the second explanation, this Tosfot here is anything. So basically anything that, any produce that one partake before tighten them. וכהן שטמא שאכל תרומה טהורה. So if it's prohibited for the impure Kohen to partake of Truma, and if he partakes of ritually pure Truma, he is liable to receive this type of mitah bidei shamayim. Ve'azar she'achal et Truma, and a non-priest that partake of Truma. Ve'zar she'shimesh, and you have a non-priest that serve in Beit HaMikdash. Ve'tameh she'shimesh, and the one who's Kohen, but he was not in a state of purity, and he served in Beit HaMikdash. Utvul yom sheshimesh, and we explained it many times, the Kohen who immersed the day, who performed the temple service, and we explained that he was impure, and he immersed in the mikveh during the day, and perform the temple services before sunset. So basically he needs to have Harav Shemesh, the sunset, and he did it umechusar bgadim. So as we explained many times yesterday and day before yesterday, that there is a basic requirement of certain clothing the priest needs to wear. So if he serves without that, umechusar kapara, meaning the Kohen that has not yet brought an atonement offering, which is the last stage. So all there is a certain categories that even they do all the ritual needed, which is the time frame, the docking themselves in the mikveh, they still needs to bring in atonement, which is zav, zava, yoledet, the woman that delivered a child, and metzora, and a leper. So if Kohen was, for example, leper, and he's not bringing yet his atonements, even he dug himself and it's already past the sunset time, he's still considering it impure. So if he served in a Beit HaMikdash, that's under the category of heavenly court, mitah bidei shamayim. אבל ערל ועונן ויושב אינם במיתה אלא באזהרה. בעל מום, if Kohen that has a blemish that serve, so a blemish Kohen who perform a temple service has desecrated the service and he received malkot, but that's basically as Rabbi Omer b'mita, ואחרים אומרים באזהרה. הזיל במעילה, Rabbi Omer b'mita, ואחרים אומרים באזהרה. So במעילה, again, the concept of מעילה, it's a big question. What exactly you mean to say that the person intentionally did something? The Rambam in the Hilchot Me'ilah chapter 1 said anyone who intentionally misuse consecrated property is received malkot. That's basically the view of the Chachazal, which is the majority of opinion in the dispute with Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. So anyway, Rabbi Omer b'mita v'chamrim b'azara. Ochel et hatev menalan. How do you know that one who ate partake a untight food and Beit HaMikdash deserve mita b'dei shamayim, a heavenly tribunal execution? So the Amar Shmuel mishum Rabbi Eliezer menalan ochel et hatev shu b'mita dechtiv v'lo ychalu shem kodshi bnei Yisrael asher irimu laHashem. בעתידים לתרום הכתוב מדבר, ויעליב חילול מתרומה, מעלה ממיתה, אף כאן ממיתה. So you learn a verbal analogy, the verbal juxtaposition of using the word desecration that used in both, and they said the same one is that we receive mita b'dei shamayim, a heavenly punishment. The same one is who partake of food that was untight, the tevel. So the Gemara asks, v'neiluf chilul minotar. So we should derive the punishment by means of different verbal analogy. So derive the term of desecration written in regard to untied produce from the term of desecration written in regards to meat left over from the offering after the time allotted from the consumption, which called the notar. Malalan becharet, afkan becharet. The same way is after isur achilat notar, the leftover is the one who desecrated that deserve karet. That's what the Torah said. V'nichreta nefesh ha'hi b'yamea in Vayikra Yud Leviticus chapter 19. The same here. So mistabra mitruma v'lelemel af sheken truma, because there's 7 points that tevel is very similar to truma. Number one, both of them have the concept of truma. They have the same halachot, and also chutz ha'aretz, that they are not affected outside of Eretz Israel. Then you have number 3, hutra. Both of them can become permitted, as an impure Kohen can immerse and partake the truma. Number 4, both of them use the word chilul in a plural. Number 5, it's peirot, that the notar is formulated in the singular, both apply to produce. And number 6 and 7, pigul venotar. It's neither the halacha of offering that was sacrificed with the intent to consume it after its designated time, nor the halacha of notar applies in either case. So the Gemara asks, Adrabah, quite the contrary. Minotar havele lemeila af sheken psul ochel, ein lo heiter b'mikveh, because there is a unfeeded of the food, while they can an impure individual partaking of truma, it is the person who is unfit, and in both cases there is no permission granted by the means of immersion in the mikveh, while in the case of an impure individual partaking truma, immersing in the mikveh is effective. So they said hanan nefishan, those elements common to truma and untied product are more numerous. Ravina amar chilud rabim adif. Ravina said the desecration by plural of mean of verbal analogy from the other desecration in the plural is preferable. וכהן טמא שאכל תרומת תורה מנהלן. דאמר שמואל מנהלן לכהן טמא שאכל תרומת תורה שהוא מידה בידי שמיים. How do you know that impure Kohen that ate a truma deserve a heavenly punishment? דכתיב ושמרו את משמרתי ולא ייסעו אליו חטא. The Torah said in Leviticus 22, and they shall keep my charge, lest they bear a sin, and they die therein if they desecrate it. I'm God. So tehora in tme'ala, which means they taking a ritually pure truma, yes, the impure kohen is liable, but for partaking impure truma, no, the kohen is not liable. אמר רבי אליעזר, מניין לכהן טמא שאכל תרומת טמאה שאינו במיתה, שנאמר ומתו בו כי יחללו, because the pasuk said and die therein if they desecrated it. So the Rambam in Ilchot Trumot chapter 7 said an impure kohen who partakes in impure truma, although he violates a prohibition, he is not receive malkot and is not liable to receive the death by the hand of a heaven. 83b פרט לזו שמחוללת ועומדת. So here we have exclusion of truma that is impure and already desecrated. So the Rambam in Ilchot Trumot said that anyway the Kohen cannot eat it, but again as we said that it's not chiyuv mitah. Chidushei Aran have a big malach here, how far you go with if he ate it but not fully eat it. זר שאכל את התרומה, וזר שאכל את התרומה meaning a non-Kohen that partook of truma. So obviously it's אמר רב זר שאכל את התרומה לוקה, ואמר לרב כהנא ורב אסי לרב לאם אמר במיתה. Why you said that he only received malkot and not death? דכתיב וכל זר לא יאכל קודש. Torah said clearly in Leviticus 22 that anyone who's not priest should not eat from consecrated item. So they said אני השם מקדשם הפסיק העניין. So ב'ksud, I am the Lord who sacrificed them, ends the matter of death. So no matter of a non-Kohen who partakes of truma is just juxtaposed to it. מי טבעי, ואלו הן שבמיתה, זר האוכל את התרומה. So they give the list, and one of them is a non-Kohen that partakes the truma. So it means, we see here the opposite, that Zar is a non-Kohen that ate the truma, so he deserves only malkot and not mita b'dei shamayim. So he said, matnita de Rav Karamit, Rav Tana u falig. So basically he is Rav is a Tana, and he has the authority to dispute the determination of the Braita. V'zar sheshimesh dechtiv, and Torah said in Bamidbar 18, v'hazar hakarev yumat. So if you remember, we learned on page 81 the disputation in the Mishnah, how far you go. Rabbi Kiva said chenek, Chachamim sim b'dei shamayim. The Rambam in general have the malach of b'dei shamayim. But anyway, v'tameshet ime k'deba minei Rav Chia bar Ravin Rav Yosef minan letamesh shimeshu b'mita. How do you know that Kohen that is impure, that serve in Beit HaMikdash, he deserve a heavenly punishment, heavenly death? So Rav Yosef said, הכתיב דבר אל אהרון ובניו וינזרו מקודשי בני ישראל ולא יאכלו את שם קודשי ויעליב חילול מתרומה. As we learned the verbal analogy, the word חילול in both מעללן במיטב כמה מידה, the same מהלך as we learned earlier. So the Gemara asks, when they laugh חילול מנותר, מעללן קרא נפקן כרת. So they stay מסתברא מתרומה וללמלאף שכן. So here we have the two isurim in 4 different directions, which is number 1 guf, number 2 tameh, number 3 mikveh, number 4 berabim. So the 4 items are, number 1, we don't have a problem relate to the body of the Kohen, both relate to impurity. In both the issue can be resolved through immersion in mikveh, and in both the term of desecration is formulated in a plural, while the regular of regarding notar is formulated in a singular. So the Gemara said, "Adarabba minotar אבל למלאף שכן קודש פנים פיגול ונותר." So they said the same מהלך, חילול דרבים, חילול דרבים עדיף, we learn plural from plural. טבול יום ששימש. So as we said, the Kohen needs to complete his process by completed day. So if he served in Beit HaMikdash before he completed the process, which is, as we said earlier, the process of sunset and waiting for Ha'arev Shemesh. So they said he received מיתה בידי שמיים. נתנן רבי סימא אומר רמז לדבול יום שאם עבד חילל מניין, תלמוד לומר קדושים יהיו להם ולא יחללו. אם אינו עניין לטמא ששימש נפקא לן מבין הזרות, אין עניין לדבול יום ששימש. ויליב חילול וחילול מתרומה, מעלם בתמינתיו כאן מיתה. So the same מהלך of broad analogy we learn for both. So basically he deserved מיתה בידי שמיים. מחוסר בגדים. If someone is not completed with a whole uniform that the Kohen needs in order to serve the Beit HaMikdash, so how know that he received מיתה בידי שמיים? So the Gemara said, מנהלן מרבי אבאו אמר רבי יוחנן ומתו בה משמד רבי אלעזר ברבי שמעון וחגרתם אותם אבנת. The Torah said clearly in the book of Shemot chapter 29 that the Kohen needs to have the girdle, needs to have the belt. So it means that there is a certain decorum. The Torah used the term v'chava shalem mikba'ot. They need to have a hat, they need to have the whole process of wearing the proper bgadim. בזמן שבגדם להם כנותם אליהם, אין בגדם להם כנותם אליהם. As long as they dress with the decorum, with the proper code, then they befitting to serve. והבו לו זרים, so basically they consider it they like a foreign, like a non-priest, if they don't wear the code, the proper dress code. והמרמר זר שמש במיטה, so you have the same מהלך. So the Tosfot חידושי הר"ן, you see it's also in the Ramban. How do you derive from here? Because there is a pasuk that deals specifically with the pants, because ועשה להם מכנסי בד לכסות בשר רבד, that's applied to מכנסיים, but not the rest of the body. But anyway, there's Yad Rama and others that elaborates a lot. You see, especially in the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman in book of Vayikra, chapter 28. ומחוסר כפרה, as we explained, מחוסר כפרה, if you remember yesterday, and we explained it earlier, so there are people who are impure that did the process of ritual in the mikveh and everything, but they go and they duck themselves in the mikveh, yet they're not completed as long as they don't have the atonements of sacrificial offering, which is Zav and Zava, Yoledet and Metzora. All this category needs to complete it by sacrificial offering. So if the Mechusar Kapara, which means they not completed the process of atonement, so they deserve punishment by Mita Bidei Shamayim. Menara Ravuna דאמר קרא וכיפר על הכהן וטהרה. טהרה מכלל התמאה. המאמר טמא ששימש במיטה. So the same מהלך. Last one for this discussion. ושלא רחוץ ידיים ורגליים. If you have a kohen that does not wash his feet and wash hands and feet perform in בית המקדש, so the same מנהל לכתיב מבואם ללמד יחצו מים ולא ימותו. So because the Torah said ולא ימותו, it means that if they serve in Beit HaMikdash without washing their feet and hands, they violated the decorum of Beit HaMikdash and deserve punishment by heaven as a death punishment. ושטויי יין, דכתיב יין ושרה על דשת. After the crisis of death of two sons of Aaron, God talks directly to Aaron in the book of Vayikra chapter 10, and he said, you should not be intoxicated, which means you should not eat wine in any form of wine, you and your sons. So you derive from that anyone who enter deserve, because the Torah used the term velo tamutu. Upurei rosh, in general, one of the Mefarshim said that applies to sons of Aaron, that they overgrown hair in the head, so that's again act of respect in Beit HaMikdash. So the notion here that they receive מיתה בידי שמיים, דכתיב וראשם לא יגלחו וראשם לא ישלחו. So Yechezkel, who also a Navi or prophet, he said in the book of Yechezkel chapter 44 verse 20 in regard to Kohanim that there are certain decorum. So one of the things he said, neither shall they shave their heads nor allow their hair grow long. And then the next pasuk in 21 they said v'yain lo yishtu, they should not drink wine. So we derive itkash perua rosh l'shtu yain, we juxtapose to kohen who are intoxicated with wine. The same way as the kohen who intoxicated with wine are punished with death by hand of heavens, the same way as the kohen who with overgrown hair on their heads are punished with death from the hands of heaven. Ma shtuya yain b'mita, apurei rosh b'mita. So now there is a discussion here, the Raven and the Ramban, how far and how much is considering intoxicated, and in general the notion of most of the Mefarshim, you see it in the Ramban at length, and the Ran and others, that's basically Halacha Moshe Sinai, and Yechezkel just use a smichut apsukim to bring this Masoret, because it's hard to find a direct quote from the Torah. So that's the reason why we use the Yechezkel but there is much more to discuss. One can see Aruch Laner, Mitzpeh Etan, Yad Ramah, and more over this issue.